I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call: William Johnston.
Here.
Thomas Graffinino.
Here.
Lynn Colligan.
Here.
Lisa Kreckler.
Here.
Phil DiOrio, I'm here. We also have present Tim Hill, the ZBA attorney. First order of business tonight is to review and approve the April 16th, 2025 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have two resolutions tonight. The first is for 12 South Ferry Road. Christina, will you give us a synopsis of the resolution, please?
Application by the town of Shelter Island for special permit at 12 South Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 700-19-2-90.1. Applicant proposes to construct 3 two-story, two-family dwelling structures as affordable housing units. A special permit is required for such use in subject zoning district. The Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on this application on March 26, 2025. Based upon all testimony and documentation, the resolution of the board is to approve the request for a special permit for the permitted principal use of two-family dwellings in connection with a proposal to construct 3 two-story, two-family dwelling structures.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, we'll do a roll call vote. William Johnston.
Yes.
Thomas Graffinino.
Yes.
Lynn Colligan.
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler.
Yes.
And Phil DiOrio votes yes. Okay, the second resolution is for 1 Pandion Road. Christina?
Application by Joshua Greenwald, 1 Pandion Development LLC for an area variance at 1 Pandion Road, Shelter Island, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 700-16-1-5.2. Applicant seeks to convert an existing unconditioned bar to habitable condition and finished accessory structure. The applicant is seeking a special permit from the town board, was seeking a special permit from the town board under the town's then applicable code. It is noted the dependency of the application spans a moratorium and amended to the zoning code. The applicant requests an area variance for relief from Town Code Section 133-10 B6, which provides that SFLA of a one-family dwelling and any conditioned accessory structure shall not exceed 5,999 square feet. The proposal seeks to maintain an existing accessory structure and to improve it by having it conditioned, which brings the total SFLA to 6,983 square feet, or 983 square feet in excess of the maximum permitted code. Accordingly, an area variance of 983 square feet is requested. The resolution of the board is to conditionally to approve the area variance request to be maintained and to be conditioned. Approval is granted upon the following conditions. The accessory structure shall not contain or be used as sleeping quarters, nor contain kitchen or cooking facilities. There shall be no further subdivision of the parcel.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote again. William Johnston.
Yes.
Thomas Graffinino.
Yes.
Lynn Colligan.
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler.
Yes.
And Phil DiOrio votes yes. Okay, we have on our hearing agenda tonight, we have 2 applications. The first is 3 Locust Avenue. It's a continuation. I'm going to recuse myself from this. The applicant is a friend of mine.
So we have Cummings 3 Locust Avenue. This was previously closed and then the board voted to reopen it. This application was previously closed. The board voted to reopen it and to continue based on our discussion and our findings that we felt that the balcony was too large, and we wanted to give the applicant an opportunity to come back with an alternative to their proposal. So is there anyone here present to present on this application?
Yes, good evening. By Zoom, Matt Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Bill Cummings, who's the property owner. Lisa, I don't know if you wanted me to kind of give a quick rehash of what this is about and what brings us back here tonight, or if you guys wanted to go into more detail as to why this has been reopened. Whatever works out better for the board, I'm willing to do either way.
We had some correspondence.
Oh, sorry. We did have some correspondence.
Okay.
Hold that thought, Matt.
Absolutely.
We did. Do you want me to summarize or you want to?
I can go ahead, yes. There was a letter from Pet Hunt and Bridge for Hunt, 1 Office Avenue, asking for amended plan the construction test. They are still opposing the application, and they resubmitted a letter from September 5th of last year. There was an email from the property owner, Bill Cummings, asking board to reconsider 2 smaller desk alternative, and stating that he's been living here for 35 years without any complaints. A letter from Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation that continues to object the application.
Thank you. Matt, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I've got any of this off. Basically, what we've done is Bill Cummings has applied to the board to build a deck, an open deck, over top of the existing covered porch that's on the creek side of his house. The house is it's a single family dwelling is the principal use. The allowed accessory use in AA zone is one of those allowed accessory uses is having a bed and breakfast. So it's a completely compliant, conforming, legal, zoning endorsed structure, as well as the uses, completely legal and allowed by zoning code. As part of the application, excuse me, we had put in the initial application for the deck. The Hunts had written a letter in opposition to this, and actually, I guess Bridge and Pat had referenced it in their latest letter, that September 5th letter. They started out their opposition to this application by stating that it's a non-compliant commercial use in a residential area, and they reiterated that point several times throughout their letter. So there's a fundamental confusion and misunderstanding about what is or is not allowed at this property and what is or is not legal. What Bill's got going on here is completely legal, completely allowed. This is not an expansion of a non-conforming use in any way, shape, or form. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 was in that September 5th letter, the neighbors had also mentioned that, and as they worded it, they have a real concern with sound and lights impacting their enjoyment of their front porch, where they sit at all times of the day and night to enjoy the peaceful Creekside neighborhood. In reading that, we took that to mean, and I took that to mean, that there were concerns about privacy and concerns about the use of this second floor deck impacting the way that they can use and enjoy their property. That was the way I took that comment. So in response to that, we suggested, hey, we can put up a hedge, we can put up privet, we can put up significant substantial plantings along the property line in order to mitigate that problem. We can protect the neighbor from any undue impacts or issues associated with this second floor deck. But they didn't want that. They wanted the area to stay open, which we understand. They want light, they want airflow. The Heights is, for the most part, there's areas of the Heights that are still somewhat open, even though a lot of the Heights has been hedged off and fences and hedges and significant plantings going up in areas. But we understood that, so we said, fine, we'll dial back the plantings. We've also reached out to them several times since those first 2 hearings to see if there was some kind of common ground that can be reached, and there simply is none. So there is no compromise that we can make that would satisfy their concerns about the installation and use of this deck on this house. There is a very similar deck to this one on the property on the other side of the Hunts at 1 Locust. That is a single family dwelling. It's the deck is on top of a covered porch, very, very similar.
Is that one, Matt, does that one encompass the entire roof line?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll show you a picture of it here. I'll share my screen and I'll show you a picture of that. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Let me see. Okay. So it's a part of it's obscured by a tree here, but this is the covered porch on the water side of the property. This is the deck over top of the covered porch. It encompasses it from side to side, 100%.
How many others are like that in the neighborhood?
In the Heights itself, there's a few of them. There's not many. In this specific area, this is the one that I know of that's over the entire porch that covers it side to side. You know, the Hunts themselves have a very small one. I wouldn't think that's comparable by any means.
Is that visible to the neighbors? I mean, because I was
Yes.
driving down there and I could not see that particular one.
Yeah, let me see.
Because it's on the water side, right?
Yeah, it's on the water side, but if you're
Is there a
looking
road
at-
in front of that?
Yeah, well, it's a paper road. It's not, Locust Avenue by paper goes down and follows the area in front of it. Let me see. Yeah, again, it's obscured by trees, but this is going up the road between the Hunts and that house at One Locust, and you can see it here. So yeah, you can see it from the Hunt's house and from the road. It's very visible. So to the point of this second floor deck, one being unheard of in the Heights and in the historic district. That was another point that was made, unheard of being my word, not theirs. That's not true. Obviously, this one 2 doors down is an example. This house, even though it was built in 1890, is not a contributing structure to the Heights Historic District. Why it's not, I have no idea. There's another one that we've got, we went through several of these, and I'm not going to belabor the points, but we went through several of these through the first couple of hearings. We have, let's see, we have One Locust. That's this one here. It was built in 1893. 17 Spring Garden, also a non-contributing structure. I'm not quite sure, the rhyme and reason as to why some of these are contributing and some of them are not is a little bit lost on me. That one was built in 1890. It has a roof deck, not quite as large because the porch itself isn't quite as large, but it has a roof deck on top of it, which is very visible from the road. We also have 4 Clinton. That has a roof deck that's visible from the road. That is a contributing structure to the historic district. Now, some of these buildings, they're not contributing structures because they had significant renovations done over the years, prior to when the historic district was put into place, and they decided which buildings should be included and which ones should not. Ironically enough, Bill's house at 3 Locust in the 40s had a very major renovation and additions done to it that, in light of some of these other structures, kept them out of the historic, being a contributing structure. We're not quite sure why his was still part of that. But, all that to be said, that's all leading into the direction of those, the idea of a roof deck on any of these buildings should not be foreign to anybody. And it should not be, it's not like this is something that just hasn't occurred or is a very strange anomaly. It's not. It's
And Matt, I don't think that the issue is having a deck on the roof. I think it's the size of it that the board was coming to odds with.
Yeah, and that gets me to my next question.
Absolutely, there are, because I was driving through the Heights in the couple streets surrounding Locust Avenue, and there were absolutely some decks or balconies, but most of them were they were very, very small, and there was a lot of roof that was not used as a deck.
Yeah,
I'd say the
I
majority
understand.
of the ones that I passed were like that.
And that brings me to my next thing. And I was following the work session discussion and, sketching things out based on what it sounded like the board was going after, and what it was you guys were looking for. So I'll share my screen again here.
Great.
And I'm talking as I'm clicking. Okay. So this is this is where my impression of where the board was going with their discussion of the roof deck. We started out with the entire area. This is the entire deck area of being a deck. And then in an effort to try and reduce the overall size of decking, the board had talked about removing this corner so that you had two separate and distinct deck areas, 142 for this room, 114 for this room. The problem with this layout is that what really caused this whole thing to start was, if you remember, where there's two Japanese maples just on the creek side of the house, one to the north, one to the south. The one to the south is dying and has to be taken out. So Bill's idea was that maple's coming out. Let's take advantage of the creek view that we're going to have going through this area out toward that creek where that maple's coming out of. So removing this corner of deck kind of goes against the whole idea of taking advantage of that view. I understand
But only for that one side, because the other side will have a view, correct?
Well, no, because there's still a tree right here.
That's not the one that's coming down?
No, this tree here is the one that's coming down. The tree to the south is the one that's coming out. And I'll show you a site plan here in just a second that shows it here.
There's still a view, though.
There's still a view.
Oh, yeah, there's still a view.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's not a view, but
Okay.
it's that's the corner. This right here is the best corner on that deck. Coming right out of it, there will be a view from the bedroom, but it's still, it's that corner is really the key spot here. So with this diseased tree being removed, opening up this corner so that there's no deck there, it's a significant shot to the overall deck that's being constructed. So what we've thought of is, okay, we understand the idea of you wanting us to shrink the size of the deck to make it something that's a little bit more palatable, is not as much of an impact on, the road, Locust Avenue or the neighbors or anything like that. So what we want to propose back to the board is shrink the deck, pull it, the structure of the deck will still be landing on this outside wall of the porch below. Bring back the railing 1 foot 4 inches so that it's inside that outer wall a little bit, both on the north side, on the east side, and on the south side, on three of those sides. Bring it out in front of the bay doors here so that we've got 4 foot 10 inches out. That'll add some architectural interest to the railing. It won't just look like a squared off railing, so it'll mimic the look of the house. It shrinks the deck from what was originally 350 square feet.
Matt,
Shrink it
I
down.
have a quick question.
Yes.
Were we supplied plans of this?
No, because I wanted to talk to you first because I wasn't exactly sure what it was you guys are looking for. Now, remember, this sketch is what I came up with based on your work session discussion. And if this is what you guys were looking at, we're at 256 square feet of decking in two discrete areas. If that was to the board an acceptable reduction in deck area, and that's why I wanted to talk to the board, then we would propose this, which is reducing it to 292 square feet of decking. So a 17% reduction of what we were originally proposing.
It's really hard. It would have been great to have some of these in front of us, some of these examples, so we could have looked at them and hashed them out together instead of just looking them on the screen.
And share
Yeah.
them
And
with
I
the
just-
parties involved.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is really
and-
difficult.
We're gonna, by doing it this way, I do understand that it's gonna drag it out a little bit longer. But what I wanted to do, if this isn't something that the board's even gonna entertain, then I'm not gonna waste your time submitting this to you. But if this is something that the board feels, all right, this is a conversation.
Matt, we
point.
can't do anything. I literally don't have any plans in front of me. Like, I can't even tell you if I'm gonna entertain it because I don't have the square footage, I don't have the drawings, I don't have anything.
Tim,
Okay.
can you give us some guidance here?
Sure. I mean, I think the issue is that, the board doesn't want to be in the position of being the designer. So in order to have a, exchange both with the board, but also with the public, if the revised plans were submitted, then the board can react to it, as can the public. I understand the inclination not to want to waste time with something that may or may not fly, but I think that's the applicant's burden, is to, originally I thought you were going to say you really just wanted to stand on the plans as they existed prior to the time it, when it previously closed and before it was reopened. Understanding now that you're saying that you do have a proposed revision, I don't think the board's in a position to prejudge that until it's received and reviewed, if that's fair to
Yes.
say.
I
That is
have one
fair.
question to Matt.
Yes.
Will these two decks be separated from each room? Or are you gonna be able to walk from one side to the other side?
Keep in mind this, the answer to that is there will be a separation. However, there's a caveat to that. There will be a railing between the two decks in this. When we had first had the hearing, we had talked about that with a locking gate. Because keep in mind, this is a bed and breakfast, but it's also a single family residence. So when Bill's using it just with his family, that's a roof deck, just like any other deck on any other single family residence. So he wants to have the ability to use it as a single family residence and a deck that supports it. If there's somebody staying in either one of those rooms, then they would lock it so that they're protecting the people in the other room. So that's it would function in both aspects. If I may expand on that a little bit too, what Mr. Hill was just saying. Yes.
It's feeling like we're now in a work session, and I think we're just not following protocol. So I'm not sure what steps we need to take, but we can't entertain a work session at a hearing.
Well, yeah, and I understand that. And what I was going to say is to what Mr. Hill was just saying is I'll submit these plans. We would love to have the original plans approved. That's what we wanted. But if the board has no appetite for that, I will submit these plans. We'll submit copies to the Heights. We'll get them to the Hunts. We'll get them to the board, and we can have this conversation next month. The idea here being that we want to have something. Obviously, I don't want to put something forward that you guys are just going to say, no, we've had this conversation. We're not going to be talking about it. The problem with looking at it from a work session point of view is that we can't have a conversation. You guys can, obviously, but we can't. And that's what got us back to this point to begin with, was us not being able to have a back and forth. So I'm all for, I'll submit, these plans and the vegetation that's been installed and, what we want to do moving forward. And we can pick this back up next month if that's where we're landing at this point.
Yes, I would agree. Does everyone agree on that?
I'd like to close it to our next
We're not
work
closing.
session.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, to our next work session.
To open it to the public since it is a.
And we can correspond.
Yeah, I think it's been noticed for a hearing. If there's people that want to speak, they can speak tonight with the understanding that.
It will be continued at another work session once we get revised plans. And Matt, just so everyone's clear and you're clear, we wanted to, this was in response to the board's discussion based on our feedback at our work session that we thought it was too big, and we wanted to extend the opportunity for the applicant to come back in case there was an alternative, just based on our conversation. Again, because we are trying to balance, the rights of the applicant and the town. So,
I
Yeah,
think,
absolutely. I appreciate that. And I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my client's time or anybody who's for or against the application. This is a little bit of an unusual situation, coming back after a work session discussion, things getting reopened. So I was trying to find a way to get on some common ground.
yeah,
If it delays it by a month, we've already been delayed by 6. So another month, while not anything that we're looking forward to, is not going to make or break the project. So if we have to come back next month, that's fine. I'll get you all this information and we'll pick it up again next month.
I think you have to continue it for another public hearing, not just a work session, right?
correct.
You have to
Yes,
proceed.
it's for another hearing. Yeah. So to follow protocol, since it is on our hearing today, is there anybody else who wants to speak on this application here today? Still,
Hi, I'm Lori Beard Raymond. I'm
sorry,
here.
Lori.
I'm here speaking on behalf of the Chiltern Heights Property Owners Corporation. And we did write a letter, and there is a little bit more to the letter than the clerk read, which hopefully you've all seen that, but just for the public benefit, there's more to the letter than just reopposed. Anyway, the reason I wanted to speak was because we too are a little confused about why we reopened the hearing. We thought that there was going to be a revised set of plans, which I've checked with Christina several times, and there has not been anything submitted. So we're happy to hear that the hearing will be adjourned so that we can have a chance to review and comment any revisions that would take place. I'd also like to clarify a couple of things that Matt said this evening, because it kind of felt like we were rehashing a previous hearing that was closed. And that is Free Locust is indeed a contributing structure. It's not just a contributing structure to the historic district. It itself is a historic structure. So that's the difference between this particular structure and some of the other structures that Matt has been referring to with different porches. They have been removed as a historic contributing structure to the district because of the work that has taken place on them over the years. So they're no longer part of that as a contributing structure. They're very different nuance. It's a different thing in terms of there's historic structures and there's the historic district, two different things. So second, and I'm just again commenting on something that Matt had said on that we had talked about in previous hearings, and that's something that's recently changed. We're not here to dispute the legal use, but there were no B&B licenses as required by the town code in chapter 133 for this bed and breakfast. I don't know why that was. Maybe it was the paperwork mishap in the building department, but they had no records of that. So, and not only did I foil that, and they couldn't find it, but I actually met with the building inspector, and he said there weren't any. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this application?
Hi, I'm Bill Cummings. First of all, I'd like to know, has everyone read my letter?
Yes.
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 And the work session said that it was due to congregations of people that the size would be restricted, that you were worried about there being a bunch of people up there. Is that the work session? Do you remember
I think the
that?
thought was having both rooms wide open to a deck where the spillover would be everyone congregating on that deck with both parties.
2 people in each room, that's 4.
That wasn't the only factor, Bill.
Oh, okay, well, in the work session, it appeared to me that was factored. I just want to address what Ms. Raymond just commented on, and though the structure has been there in some form, there was a hotel there, the Oxford Hall, around the corner, and there was a cabin there. And I should have brought them today, pictures of inside the building. In the attic, there are roofs with shingles on them. The structure is entirely been changed, especially in the 40s. I have pieces of the Prospect Hotel that were used in the 40s after the burnt the second time. And it's not the structure that was there in 1900, that's for sure. So, and that's about it I have, but also, if there is any, well, I already addressed that in my letter. If there's any other proposals, I'd love to hear. Have any questions? I think I can address any of your concerns. Please let me know what they are.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this application? Okay, so I think we can adjourn to our next hearing, May 21st. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can we go get Phil? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a hearing on 80 North Ferry Road, Sylvester Manor. Christina, will you read the notice?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have to excuse myself, I'm a neighbor.
Okay.
The
Will
property.
you open up for a punch in the office? Thank you.
Little boys for bedroom. Yeah.
Hearing on the application of the Sylvester Manor Educational Farm, Inc., owner of 80 North Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York, which is located in Zone AA and B, and is more specifically described on the Suffolk County Tax Map at 700-1-5.1. The applicant is seeking a special permit as required by Section 133-7D for a change of use, principal use is permitted with such special permit in District AA as set forth in subsection 2 and 5 thereof, an educational institution and/or a use of the same general character as those permitted uses specifically listed in said section of the code. The correspondence in support of the application was received from the following people: Mary and Mike Ward, 29A Osprey Road; Jay and Judy Card, 11 Lockwood Drive; Michael Cole and Eddie Landig, 28 Tuttle Drive; Nancy Cooley, 6 Cobbett's Lane; Robert and Ingrid Fagan, 1 Targettle Road; Robert Ferris, 3 Daringwoods Road; Mary Frank Gleason, 32 Baldwin Road; Liz Hanley, 165 North Ferry Road; Timothy Haynes and Kevin Roberts, 160 North Ferry Road; Nan Lawson on behalf of the Shelter Island Historical Society; Karen Kelsey, 3 Daringwoods Road; Christina Lange, 82 Smith Street; Terry Lucas on behalf of the Shelter Island Public Library; Angelo Picozzi, 3 St. Mary's Road; Maggie and Todd Prager, 78 Taconic Avenue; Brooke Bradley on behalf of the Quinnipiac Camp and Retreat Center; Brian Dolger on behalf of the Shelter Island School District Board of Education; Ruth and Johnny Sherman, 20C South Ferry Road; Edward Schillingburg, 4 West Neck Road; Jeff Fleckenstein, 61 Manhasset Road; Sarah Tobin and Paul Skinner, 142 H North Ferry Road; Joanna Harris, 5 Quail Run; Tim Pertel, 5 Bluff Avenue.
Thank you, Christina. Just before we get started on this, is one point I wanted to make that you were asking for special permits for the AA zone lot and also for the B zone part of the property. And any special permits for permitted principal uses in B zone are issued by the town board. So for us here, we really can only do for the residential zone part of the property. In 133.8D of the town, of the zoning code, 133.8D, it says permitted principal uses requiring a special permit by the town board. So that, we will not be dealing here with any special permits in B zone tonight.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, sir.
Ready to go?
Sure, please state your name for the record.
Yeah, Christopher Kelly, Toomey Latham, Shea, Kelly, Dubin, and Cordero for the applicant, Sylvester Manor Educational Farm LLC. I'll be presenting tonight, passed around a memorandum of law, which we believe for the record addresses how the application satisfies the criteria for a special permit. With that clarification by the chair, I believe the next step for us is if we were to succeed here, is to go to the town board for a site plan review, at which point we'd be able to apply for the special permit for the B RP zone.
Yeah, I'm not a specialist in the pathways.
Okay. But we will be before that board in any event, is my point. I'm here to address the application, and also we will have Stephen Cyril, who's the director of the forum, to come and speak, as well as many of the members of the public may speak in support. So the subject property is located at 80 Ferry Road, North Ferry Road, and consists of 236 acres owned by the applicant, although technically the application, the part of the 236 acres to which the special permit would apply are two tax map lot numbers, 700-8-1-5.10 and 5.3. And those two lots comprise 137 acres. Historically, the property has served as a provisioning plantation and is the most intact example of such a plantation north of Virginia. Now, you all may know, because you live here, that what that means, but I thought it was very interesting. And provisioning plantation is one that provides provisions for another aspect of the owner's business. In this case, the owner historically in the 17th, 18th centuries had a sugarcane plantation in Barbados. And the land in Barbados was so valuable as part of the triangle trade at that period of time for the production of sugarcane that was eventually made into rum, that it made no sense for them to dedicate any portion of that property to vegetables and other provisions, things to be grown that would be used by the population working that plantation in Barbados, especially the slave population. So it actually made sense, although it doesn't seem economical to us, it actually made economic sense for them to grow vegetables here and ship them down to Barbados. The property contains numerous structures, including the 1737 Manor House, as well as numerous outbuildings and accessory structures. If you look at Exhibit E to the memorandum that I passed out, there's a representational map. It's not to scale, it's not a survey, but it gives you a general sense of the property as well as the location.
We have two sets of documents with exhibits.
What you gave out tonight or what we've got before?
What I gave out tonight.
It's A and B.
A, I said, I'm sorry.
I thought-
Oh,
Thank you.
Today. So the property has passed through 11 generations of the same family, starting with the Sylvesters and running to the most recently, Evan Fisk Oxby, who created the educational farm in 2010, and he was the final descendant of the Sylvester family to occupy the premises. Currently, the property is used as an educational farm, as a site for historic preservation and interpretation, for land preservation and recreation, for cultural programming, and for nonprofit administration, with the manor's administrative offices being on site. As the operation of the initial educational farm expanded after 2010, the town on numerous occasions gave building permits and COs for various aspects of construction and renovation at the property. As early as 2018, the manor's attorneys were in discussions with the town on how best to handle the transition from what was a defunct plantation to what was becoming a historic and educational community resource. Some potential solutions that were discussed between the town board and council for the manor were, one, the creation of an overlay district that would include the specific permitted use of this type, this hybrid use of educational and historic resources, or alternatively a special permit that likewise would be specific in the way the town code has a specific special permit provision for ferries. In 2024, facing the need to do renovations to the manor house, the applicant submitted a building permit application that was rejected. And also in 2004, for the first time, the town board took the position that the continuing operations at the property required a special permit. And the manor was cited for several violations that are currently pending in justice court as a result of their use of the property and this kind of transition to a more expansive public use. In consultation with then town attorney Steve Kiley, it was agreed that the best way forward was for the applicant to utilize what I'll call, for lack of a better term, a catch-all provision in the special permit uses in both the AA and the B district. And those, that particular catch-all special permit use allows this board, in the case of the AA zone, and the town board in the case of the B, to approve uses that are of, quote, the same general character of the other permitted uses in those zones. So the relief we're requesting here is that the board recognize the existing uses that have grown kind of organically over time at the site, from the time it was a residence and then solely a farm, an educational farm, and allowed the building permit to issue for the renovations that are scheduled by the manor and for which they have grants to cover the cost of. The specific elements of the renovations proposed are outlined in the application, but they're primarily to the manor house and also include a IA septic system, which will improve groundwater conditions at the site. Two important things to note as we go on here, though. One is that special permit uses are permitted uses under the code, provided criteria are established by the applicant. We're not talking about variances here. We're not talking about something that's outside the code or extraordinary. We're talking about something that is permitted. The other thing that we think is important to note here is that permitted in the AA district, I mentioned the B district as well, but in the AA district, residences and agricultural uses are permitted, and educational uses are permitted by special permit use. In the B zone, you actually even are permitted through a special permit to have a museum, which is also a similar use. The point being here is that the uses that are permitted in the code already in the two districts are very similar to what are of the same character as the uses that are actually being conducted. So as outlined in the memorandum I submitted tonight, we believe that the manor satisfies the criteria which are set forth in Code Section 133.35, subsections A through D, the criteria that are specifically to be applied in a special permit application. I'll just review them generally, but they're more specifically addressed in the memorandum. One is general suitability. We'd submit that the uses proposed and actually conducted there are in harmony and promote the general purposes of the code. They will not cause overcrowding. And I'll just mention, I believe the property is the least densely occupied property in private ownership on the island, except for maybe the Neshomic Preserve. And by granting the special permit, it will encourage an appropriate use of the property. The location, which is the second criterion, clearly it's a suitable area. It's consistent with the neighborhood. It's consistent with the residential uses surrounding the property. It would not create any substantial hazard to the public or to people using the property. And it will not have an adverse impact on the surrounding area. The third criteria is impact on public services. There are clearly suitable access facilities. They're sufficient to have people come in and out without interfering with the public's travel on the highways or use of adjacent properties. A fourth category is environmental concerns. If the permit is granted, it will assist in keeping the manor a site for not only historic preservation, but land preservation, open space preservation, recreation preservation. It will maintain the low density of the property, and it will facilitate, as referred to earlier, the installation of the IA septic system, which will have a positive impact on groundwater. The last criteria is site development. and that has to do with size and buffering and so forth. Clearly, the site at 236 acres is sufficient size. It has adequate off-street parking and adequate buffers on both sides. So in conclusion, on the basis of the summary I've presented tonight, the memorandum submitted in the application, we would ask the board to approve the special permit, find that the uses that are proposed and that are actually conducted on site are in the same general character as those already permitted in the code, but also that it's in of the same general character of the neighborhood and the area of the island that the property is located. And we're happy to answer any questions.
So clearly, I haven't read through the memorandum that you prepared for tonight, but I did read through your application package, and it said that parts of the property are protected through deeds of development rights or other conservation instruments. Are there, I can't really see on the survey what parts of the property, and are either of these two lots, do they have any part of
I
that?
believe so. I think that relates to other tax map lots.
If anybody else wants to speak, they have to just come up and state their name for the record.
Maybe Mr. Sewell can address that when he addresses the board.
Okay, okay.
Question.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any questions right now?
Not right now, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Stephen Searle, I'm Executive Director with Sylvester Manor. Maybe before I have some written comments here, but maybe I'll just address your question first, just right off the bat. We have about, I believe it's 30, Sarah, correct me, 38 acres is preserved under two separate conservation easements. So we have 236 acres total of the property, right? And we're focusing here, this application is on 138 of those acres, which are in two separate tax map parcels. Now, what's very confusing is that there are this is a complicated property, complicated project. It has been from its inception. There are a number of different conservation easements throughout this property. And we're happy, of course, to give you whatever kind of material that you need in order to help you better understand this.
So are either of these two lots, do they have any conservation easements for any part of those two lots that you're asking for the special permits for?
Yes, there are two separate conservation easements on a portion of that 138 acres. Yes, that's before. So yes.
I would love for you all just to provide us with that, just
of course
to see exactly what the agreement is.
Of course. And one is held by Peconic Land Trust, and it's of an earlier date, probably 2014, maybe thereabout. 2009, thank you. And the other is 2020, held by the town. So again, yes, we will provide you with both of those.
Can you outline where on the site those
Right.
easements are
Yes.
located? Okay.
So, and,
Yes,
you know,
we'll provide you with that.
if we could get the survey marked up where it's very, very clear of the borderline of the two lots that you're talking about,
Yes.
and also within those lots, wherever the conservation easements
Yes.
are, that would be great.
Absolutely. We're also preparing a map for our site plan review, which is our council indicated will be before the board soon. So that may also be helpful because we're actually having the surveyor delineate the conservation easements, areas and so on. So we'll make sure to do that. Yes, and there's also a preservation covenant on the 2 acres of the manor house. So sorry, there's actually going to be 3 separate easements. I mean, again, conservation is a huge priority of this project, and that's why there are various conservation easements throughout this property. And,
Okay, so if we could just have all the information on that, that would be very helpful
Thank you.
for us.
Thank you. And good evening again. Thank you for this opportunity to speak before you. As I said, my name is Stephen Searle. For the past 7 years, I've been executive director at Sylvester Manor, a nationally significant historic site. Sylvester Manor was established in 1651 and has stood as a witness to centuries of American history. It served many roles, from a provisioning plantation encompassing all of Shelter Island to a family estate. Today, it functions as a resource for the entire community. We employ nearly 80 people during the height of the summer season and have operated as a nonprofit, working farm, center for historical, educational, and cultural programs, as well as a publicly accessible open space for the past 15 years. The 1737 Manor House in particular is one of the oldest surviving structures of its kind in the region and remains a tangible link to our shared past. However, it badly needs repair. Time and weather have taken their toll, and the last major renovation was in 1908. Without timely intervention, we risk damage to this resource of exceptional historical value. Starting in 2020, we hired a team of historic preservation experts to advise us on how to rehabilitate the Manor House in a way that meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for the preservation of historic structures, while also making the structure ADA accessible. Fortunately, grants have been awarded for the project. These grants are critical for making the necessary repairs, but they are also time sensitive. We have embarked on the organization's first ever capital campaign and have raised over $6 million towards an overall goal of $13 million. And we have another $3 million in requests and grant applications in progress. We ask for your critical support today to preserve this nationally significant structure and ensure we retain access to the funding already in place and anticipated. On behalf of our organization, grantors, donors, and community partners, I request that the Zoning Board of Appeals support the timely advancement of our application. Approval of our special permit is essential to preserving Sylvester Manor, safeguarding its legacy, and allowing us to continue agricultural, educational, and cultural programming that benefits the entire community. We sincerely appreciate your attention to this matter, and our team is happy to provide any information you may need or even to arrange a site visit if you would find that helpful. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any other questions as they come up.
And also, I guess if we could ask you to enumerate the things that you would like to receive special permits for, and perhaps draw a line between those things that you would like a special permit for and the things that they are similar to, because that's, if you're going to try, want to use that catch-all phrase, we have to draw a line somewhere to connect the dots.
Yeah, so in the memorandum, we specifically set forth the uses that we're asking the board to recognize. That would be on page 2. And we go in at point 1, talk about how the things that we're doing are similar to permitted uses. So we address that in there.
So, I would say, just off the top of my head, that a residential use doesn't need a special permit. Agricultural activities, as far as I can tell, don't need a special permit, and neither would agricultural accessory uses.
Right, but we want to recognize the whole of what the property does. We didn't want to exclude anything that is included in the property. So yes, the things that are probably haven't been approved in the past are educational, cultural programs, office and staff housing, and a use of the property for events and recreational uses.
Okay. And so is there a plan to build staff housing?
Not at this time. We would like to build staff housing at some point, at some future point, but that's on the further horizon. Right now, our main priority and our capital campaign, everything around it is to preserve the Manor House. So as you all know, we employ a lot of people, and we do rent a house across the street from Mr. Binder. It's been super, super helpful for our farm apprentices in particular, but housing is a huge issue on this island, as we all know.
We've heard.
Staff housing. It's going to be very important in the mid to long-term future, of course.
How much staff is currently housed in the offsite?
Offsite, we have 5 employees, and then year-round sort of core. They're not all necessarily full-time. I mentioned 80 staff members. We have 15 to 20 that are year-round, sort of what I would consider like some of them are part-time, some of them are full-time, and then a lot of part-time people beyond that seasonal help. Yeah.
Also, we talked about on the survey that there are some properties that are owned by others. If those, I mean, I see that they're marked a little bit, but anything that's owned by others, if that could really be marked up well on the survey as well. And
Sure, I can answer that. Just, there's nobody else owned by others on that 236 acres. There is one property called the Creekside Cottage, which is on Gardner's Creek, which is 2 acres, which is not owned by us. Everything else is.
okay, because
And it should be marked in the survey.
it shows
Sure.
building number 11, building number 12, and building number 15 are all labeled as private residence owned by others.
Take a look at that. Thank you.
This is
Please come up and state your name for the record.
Sarah Gordon. I'm the planner for Sylvester Manor. Gunnar Wisseman owns his cottage on a ground lease. That's one of the dwellings owned by others. Next to that is the old farmhouse, which used to be owned by descendants of Alice Fisk, was purchased by Sylvester Manor in 2022, so that's no longer owned by others. And then the Creek Cottage is owned by Kevin Roberts and Tim Haynes, from whom you have a letter of support for the application.
Thank you.
Stephen, I have a question. So potential staff housing is something you'd like to do in the future. Is there anything else that you would like to do in the future with regard to like educational programs that are large in scale or fundraising events that are large in scale
Yeah.
that we might want to know about?
Yes, good question. So we have designated, there is a barn complex in the center of the property. And using sort of pre-existing footprints, we would love to have an indoor educational space at some future point. We have, right now, it's almost all outdoors. It's very seasonal. When it rains, kids go home. So it'd be amazing to have an educational building. Perhaps one of those barns could service that. But again, that's a longer term project that, you know, we would obviously have to come before the appropriate boards and committees to get that approval and review.
And what about things like, I don't know, event space, catering hall?
That is not in our plans, and I don't anticipate that it would be. Right now, we have had private events on the property, although not very often. Our last wedding was probably years ago that we rented it out for. We do have our own events. We have a big fundraising event, but we bring everything in, and we kind of do that on purpose because then everything comes in and everything goes out. And we don't want to be a wedding factory by any means. If you know about our history, which I know you all do, it's complicated. And wedding venue is not at all top of the list, and I can't imagine ever will be. Having a wedding at a former provisioning plantation is not our highest priority by any means.
Okay, so I mean, do you foresee something like Stone Barns up in Westchester? Are you familiar with that?
I am, yes.
I mean, is that something that you kind of see in the future, a farm-to-table restaurant and?
I don't know, to be totally honest. We are, on the one hand, this needs to be supported by revenue generation, but on the other hand, we have to do things that are appropriate with the community. Our biggest priority, actually, Lynn, you mentioned it, is our educational. First of all, fixing up the house. Staff housing is absolutely on the list. Educational programming and facility for that. You know, a restaurant and larger scale things, I don't know where that would stand. Certainly with our board, I don't know.
You know, just we're trying to see what might be on the agenda going forward. All right. Anyone else have any questions right now? Mr. Kelly, did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to reiterate on page 2, we have a list of uses that I think that they encompass all the stuff that the manor does, and things like events are mentioned, and some of the uses would be accessory to those main uses. But educational and cultural programming is a very broad brush use. I think, I wouldn't say, I would concede that a restaurant is not an accessory use of any of these and would require some further approval.
Okay, and the last thing on that list is events and recreational uses. So what kind of events would we be talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about fundraising events primarily for the institution.
Okay, not events like whatever, like a wedding or
No,
something.
but a wedding would be a permitted accessory use for a cultural institution. That's something that if you go in the case line, you'll find out museums and venues can, for cultural programming, oftentimes become venues for events such as weddings and parties and whatever.
We also do quite a bit of cultural programming. For example, we'll have Shakespeare, this coming summer, we'll have Shakespeare at the Manor. We have a big concert planned at the end of August. We used to have actually a lot more concerts. We've sort of scaled back since the pandemic. It's just so much work. And we're also sensitive to the community in general. We want to make sure, obviously, we're respectful.
Now, for large outdoor events, there's already a permitting process in place with the town.
Correct, which we go through, and we've gotten any and all permits necessary. Now, sometimes it depends on the permit. We haven't needed a permit for farm to table. I just want to be clear about that. We, for whatever, anyway, we've had discussions with the town board over that. I'd have to dig up the paperwork. That's obviously, with that.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions right now? All right, I guess maybe we can open up to the floor and see if anyone else would like to weigh in. Please, Mr. Gaynor.
Thank you.
Step up and state your name.
Mike Gaynor, 8 and 10 Cobbetts Lane. I share a lot line with Sylvester Manor Educational Farm. I want to make a clear distinction that my position on the property is bifurcated. There, of course, is the historical site itself, which we all very much appreciate. And then there's the applicant, which is a business that owns that historical site. One of the first things I did when I moved to the community is I made a $30,000 donation to Sylvester Manor Educational Farm, the business, to support it because I saw the condition of the property. And I thought for sure that could use a coat of paint, and I have some photographs of it, and I'll show you that in a minute. I quickly found out that they weren't, as an applicant, as a business, the way we consider things, if a bar or a restaurant operator were coming to the community, we'd want to know how that business was going to perform. Were they good corporate citizens? Perlman Center, for example, had to go through your special permit process recently. Before they went ahead and got and did construction, they went ahead and went through the process. They went and got a special permit first. These folks took over that property. They're acknowledging it. Everybody knows it. It's an open secret. I was the last guy to find out. They've been operating that business illegally in a AA zone since they took ownership of it in 2010, when they formed that not-for-profit corporation. And it's not just one illegal event, it's been a series of illegal events, and I'll go through all of those. Last year in February, I came here to the town board and I confronted the board about this. I said, have they ever secured a special permit? We all know how arduous those processes are. Perlman Center had to go through it. It cost them a year. They missed their programming date. They're going to miss their whole summer because construction is going to start so late over there. It's an incredibly painful process. These folks do one illegal thing after another, one after another. I confronted Amber, Meg, Ben, Al, we're all here at the table, and I said if they were getting a special permit, and their responses were, one, that was all before our time, which is just ridiculous because it's an ongoing illegal use. It's not supposed to be operating there. Business is not supposed to operate there without a special permit. Two, they said, actually, that's not even our board, it's you guys. And so everybody's finger pointing around here about what's going on with this organization, and it's really, really unfair. Not 1 month, not a month after I confronted these folks about not having a special permit and operating an illegal business in a AA zone, Tim filed a lawsuit on behalf of the town against a guy, Kim Eaton, on 16 South Cartwright for doing the exact same thing. The New York State Supreme Court took Kim Eaton to New York State Supreme Court. The complaint was that he was operating outside of his barn, that he had a drafting table inside of his barn, and he was parking a company car out of there. That suit cost that gentleman $100,000. Alex Kriegsman represented him, and the town, God knows what we had to pay Tim to go after that guy. Can you see why an ordinary citizen would be upset the way certain people inside of this, to use a farm analogy, on Shelter Island, all pigs are supposed to be created equal. That's not the case, is it? Some pigs are more equal than others. That happens all the time around here. So it's a very significant problem. Make no mistake, this is an entity that is a business. It's a business operating inside its own. They have $28 million in net assets. Here's their balance sheet from their most recent audit. They have a $1.1 million payroll line over there. And they're operating a business, and everybody knows that inside of this community. This is a very serious problem. This is what they know. I got it, Ben. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for offering. I appreciate it. They say that their charge, when they got from the IRS, which is a requirement inside of the zoning code, that in order to get their not-for-profit status, which is a requirement in Chapter 133, they have to be recognized by the IRS, that their charge was that they were going to preserve and protect the historic Sylvester Manor. This is the historic Sylvester Manor. Does that look like that's been preserved? I took this picture yesterday. Take a look at that structure. There was a lapse in time by Mr. Kelly talking about they approached the board for the first time in 2013 until 2020 or 2021, when they went to go get their special permit. What have they been doing in the meantime with this property? We're very fortunate to have this historic property on the island, and no one is taking care of it. People are giving them money. I'm going to make an argument for you tonight that what they're suggesting here, what that business operates, that they are in fact not in the same general character as an educational institution. I'm going to suggest to you tonight what they are. That is all incidental to what they principally do. They are in an event business. They have one event after another over there, and they're all illegal. Here's another example of one of the properties out there. All of these buildings are falling down. They have $10 million in cash inside of negotiable securities inside of there. They've raised $6 million at illegal events. This makes them quite unusual. This is not a forest. This is an unmarked, uncared for burial ground where there are 200 African slaves in their front yard. And this is what that property looks like. If you go over there right now, there's garbage strewn around throughout the entire property. This is their farm to table event that they have every year. Every year, they have 450 people go to these events, and they make all that money, yet that building looks like that. Where is all this money going? It's walking in the front door and it's going out the back door. This is a real problem. This past year, they had an illegal event. They had an event there. Amber told them that they could not play music, and Meg voted on that as well. They had their farm to a table event. They thumbed their noses at that requirement, and they played music anyhow, loud music. I had the police come out. Ben attended that event. He's on our town council. That's illegal. When you get free tickets, it is, Ben. Not a month later, they had a concert where they sold tickets on Eventbrite. Is that in the same general character as an educational institution? 300 tickets to a sold-out show after they were told they couldn't have concerts out there. In the town of Shelter Island, you are required to get a film permit if you are going to film a film. In 2019, they had Beyonce come over there and film a film with Disney. 1 year prior to that, not 1 year prior to that, everybody on the planet saw what had happened. Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant and HBO were going to film a film, and they got shut down by the community. The HBO offered $50,000 to allow them to film for one night. And the gray-haired infantry division here ran them out of town because they didn't want to be, have their summer disrupted. They knew exactly what they're doing. These are very, very smart people. They have attorneys, they have millions of dollars, and they went ahead and they secretly filmed a film. This thing made its way to Page 6 and Vanity Fair. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they do it left and right. They say they are not in the wedding business. They are very much in the wedding business. They have weddings all the time out there. That is an untruthful statement. They have young kids coming out there. It's crazy loud, and they're throwing massive weddings. You can go online and you can look at all of these Instagram pages. You know what young Brooklyn kids mix well with? Dope and firewood. This is what the woods over there look like. This place is ready to combust. If you were trying to start a fire, this is what you would do. Go take a walk through their woods. They have piles of wood all over the place. It's recognized as an old wood forest. If you read the Shelter Island Reporter today, there's an article. We are staring down the barrel. This island is staring down the barrel of being Hampton 2.0 and lighting up. And they're having these events over there, left and right, 450 people coming over there, smoking, drinking, electrical generators, all of this stuff. We're not set up for this. That place is a 240 or 230 acre tinderbox. And the first thing that's going to go is going to be the historical manor house. This historic barn, which is also falling down, is in fact not a barn. This is a nursery school. They operate an illegal daycare center out of this place. I had to call the building inspector because they had kids going inside of this thing. You know who used to live in this barn? African slaves. And they had kids playing inside of this thing. So they propped it up with these sticks here. There's the little kids, the little cherubs chairs right there. They had them playing inside of the barn. You can't make this stuff up. Next, to the nursery school. Gunner is operating a wood milling operation. That's a commercial bandsaw 100 feet from where the kids play. Do these sound like people who are operating with good sense over there? I discussed this with you before. This is that deer fence that surrounds their farm. That's an illegal deer fence. They didn't get a special permit for it. These are the exact same set of conditions that we went through on 60 Smith Street with George Soros's property over there. He was required to get a permit, but these folks weren't because they thumbed their nose at the law because they have friends in high places. This is called the Old Farmhouse. They purchased this house, and immediately, if you read their annual report and the audit that they're required to supply to the state for their not-for-profit use, they state in both of those documents they acquired the Old Farmhouse for $2.2 million. This is a very, very well-funded organization. They have tons of money. They went out and bought this mansion, this $2.2 million house, which according to Zillow, the price is up to $2.5 million now. And they say that they immediately turn this into staff housing and office spaces. They know exactly what they're supposed to do. Can anybody in a AA zone take a house and turn around and turn it into offices? Is that allowed? Can I go do that? Lisa, I think you'll especially appreciate this, given your position about one candidate. And did the developer over there know what he was doing, but when he went ahead and do it? These are their plans. The reason I gave them $30,000 when I first came here, they hired a planner, a land planner, and paid them $250,000 to put together a plan. Here are all the plans, and I know you've seen them because I've sent them to you before. And it talks about wedding venues, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, planned 6, I'm sorry, 6 wedding venues on that property. This is a orchestrated, significant attempt to not share this information in advance. Barns, wedding barns that hold 600 people, those are wedding tables inside of them. Do you mind if I share these?
Seen those, actually, thank you.
Thank you for asking those questions then. And it goes on and on. This is a concerted effort. They know exactly what they're doing. Their application is woefully, woefully incomplete. That the old farmhouse, that's 82 North Ferry Road, that needs to be completed, put inside of this application. All of this needs to be put inside of the application. Do you know how many people they say visit that property every year? 18,000 people visit that property every year. 18,000, that's not a small sum of people. So when we go through the special permit answer sheet, contrary to what Mr. Kelly was saying, I don't think we float through it that easily. Is the proposed use the most appropriate use of this land? I don't think so for an event business where there's a perimeter of residential properties all the way around it. Will the use be detrimental to surrounding property values? It will for me. They have a parking plan inside of here that stipulates 343 cars on that property. We all know what one set of headlights looks like on Shelter Island. Try 343 sets of headlights out there. Will the use cause overcrowding of land or undue concentration of the population? I think 18,000 people might do that. I think when they have their farm to table event that they've already determined they're going to have, where they're going to have 450 people lined up that are all going to run at 6:30 p.m. on June 26th, that's going to create overcrowding. Is the proposal harmonious with the character of the existing and probable development of the uses in the vicinity? I do not think so. Is the proposed use accessible for fire or other emergency apparatuses? I think they're going to need them, given the condition of those felled trees over there. Is the proposed use unreasonably near a church, school, recreational, or other place of public assembly? I think they actually get that one. I'll give them that. Will the proposed use interfere with established uses inside of the neighborhood? Absolutely. Residential neighborhood all throughout the place, and they're running event businesses. This community has taken no enforcement action. So one of the things you're going to say is when you go through this application process, you're going to say, well, these are all the things that they can't do. Please tell me who's going to enforce that when nobody's enforced any rules against them in the past decade. None. They've not received one citation for anything. So that's all I had to say this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tina. Mr. Searle and Mr. Kelly, I'd just like to ask one point that Mr. Jimmy made was discussing that there's a nursery school or a pre-K there. There was something going on there. I do recall. Tell me what.
Sure, we have a forest school, which is just upwards 6 to 8 kids usually.
It's not actually ours.
It's not ours. However, it does operate at our property, and it's a school it's outdoor school completely.
And to what is the relationship between Sylvester Manor Educational Farm and the forest school?
They simply use our property.
Do they lease it or do they?
They do. Yeah, we have a lease with them, but they're just on the property running the school. My understanding of that school is that it's from a Scandinavian philosophy where you simply are outside all the time. We also run, that's only a handful of kids, but we run a summer youth program, which is very well established, which has been ongoing for the past at least 10 years, maybe. Yeah, 10, at least 12 years probably. And that's in the summer months, end of June, July, August.
And I noticed somewhere in your submission, not from tonight, but previously, It said that your charter prohibits having a school. Is that right? Is it possible that when you submit the other stuff to us, you could give us a copy of the charter as well, just so we can take a look at that?
Yes, yeah.
That 450 person event, how many times a year does that occur?
It's about 400. I think if we're referring to farm to table, it's about 400 people that attend. That's once a year. That's our biggest fundraising event.
Okay.
We do have very small, select fundraising events. I also just looked because you asked about this before, the last wedding we had was 2019. Before the pandemic, we haven't had any since. As I said before, it's rare when we have them. And obviously we abide by the rules when we do, but we haven't had one for about 6 years, 5, 6 years. You also asked about other events and numbers of people. For example, our August concert last year, we had 450 to 500 people for that. That was a late afternoon, early evening event. We're done before the sun goes down, before it's dark.
How many events per year do you have?
We have on the larger events, so let's say Farm to Table, our fundraising event, Shakespeare at the Manor, that's not a huge event, but it does run over a couple of nights. That's in late July, and our culture, that's 3 big events. And then we have smaller select events. We've also had a sculpture exhibition at Sylvester Manor that was very successful, but that's simply kind of walking through. I would not call that an event. We do have smaller events, 15, 20 people, gatherings of that size. But our major events, it's been 3 consistently since the pandemic.
And I'm just curious how it turns into 18,000 people coming each year.
I think our count is more like 15,000 because we're taking into account people that come to the sculpture exhibition and walk through, right? We have tours, we have kids programs, we have people who are walking the trails. Farm stand, right? A lot of people traffic at the farm stand, a CSA. So you take all of those things together. And I think it's about, we think it's about 15,000 that come through. They're not there all at the same time, to be clear.
I understood. Tracy, if you want to chime in, you got to get up and speak. You can't be the ventriloquist back there, okay?
And school trips, also relating to you, school trips.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions right now? All right, I'm going to open it back up to the floor if anybody would like to come up and make a statement.
Okay. Actually, also have some prepared stuff here. Usually when I'm up here, it's to speak about shellfish seeding and marine habitat restoration through environmental stewardship and education. What drives me in this work is ensuring thriving bays for our community so that future generations may continue the cultural tradition of harvesting our waters, and for people to understand and appreciate why that's important. What brings me here tonight, I would argue, is similar. Sylvester Manor is seeking permission to restore the Manor House, a piece of Shelter Island's history, before it crumbles to the ground. Speaking as a parent of a 5th grader at Shelter Island School who has shown a growing interest in history and social studies, the proposed plans for the Manor House will create an incredibly rich educational resource for him and his peers, offering our island's teachers a foundation off of which to develop enriching conversations about the people who lived and worked and utilized the property specifically, as well as its broader global historical context. Speaking as a community member who impatiently awaits the start of the Farm CSA program, I've witnessed the incredible bounty of produce that the farm donates to our food pantry and to CAST on the North Fork. Not only that, but the educational aspect of the farm, its apprentice program, its engagement with the school and our students, helps keep alive the East End's deeply rooted agricultural tradition. I just realized I never introduced myself. That comfortable here. I'm Kate Rossi-Smith, full-time president here. While I can't speak officially as an employee of CC Marine, Cornell Cooperative Extension, another nonprofit organization, we are not an advocacy organization, so that's why I need to say that. What I can speak to is our partnership with Sylvester Manor in our shell recycling program. They granted us a space not only to collect and store shells before being reused for oyster reef restoration, but also for me to invite volunteers to gather and learn about my work to help give back to the bays and become better stewards of both the land and sea. In closing, I ask that you grant Sylvester Manor permission to move forward in their proposed work and planned operations for the benefit of our island and broader community now and for future generations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello?
Hello. Good evening. My name is Galen Gingrich. My wife Holly Atkinson and I have been coming to Shelter Island since the early 1990s, and we are now full-time residents here. I serve on the farm committee at Sylvester Manor, and since 2018, I think it is, I have been leading the Sylvester Manor Harvest Service at Union Chapel each August. I'm here to urge you to approve the matter before you. I realize that it's a complicated set of zoning issues. It would be much simpler if Sylvester Manor were simply a shop or a farm or a cultural center or a history site or a residence. But in fact, it is some aspect of all of those things, which is testimony to the way in which it has reached out to our community in many different ways and brought people together. And for my part, and for Holly's part, that's part of the magic of Sylvester Manor, the way it serves many different people in many different ways and brings together a community that makes Shelter Island what it is. This would be a much simpler issue, of course, if the Sylvester family had chosen instead to sell the property to a developer and you simply had to approve 99 residences. For my part, I'm glad that didn't happen, and I'm glad we have this wonderful resource. So I urge you on behalf of Holly and me to approve this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Liz Hanley. I'm a full-time resident and I am just here to speak in favor of the application. I think I'm also a member of the farm stand committee. And I just, similar to the previous speaker, I think that it makes a lot of sense that there's not a specific permit or specific zone that fits what Sylvester Manor does. They are so multifaceted. And they provide, it's been my experience, I have gone to the historical lectures there. I have seen concerts there. I am a member of the CSA. My daughter works at the farm stand. And as a full-time resident, I have enjoyed such benefits from the manor and the whole organization. I think they are really a boon to the community, and I would urge you to find in favor of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? I'm,
We're gonna wait, we're just gonna listen to the audience here first, and then we'll open it up to Zoom, sir. Tim?
Hi, my name is Tim Bertel. I live at 5 Bluff Avenue. I'm writing in support of, I'm just reading my letter, but I would like to, it says everything I'm going to say. In support of the application for a special permit. My connection to the manor is a bit personal. My parents were friends with Alice and Andrew Fisk, and I was friendly with Alice's daughters, Susan and Elizabeth. I remember visiting the manor house and playing hide and seek in the garden. To a child, the garden seemed vast and mysterious, and the manor house was grand. Jump ahead many, many years later, and Sylvester Manor has successfully transformed into a vital cultural, educational, and agricultural resource that serves our community in multiple and valuable ways. I'm now going to talk about one of the more unglamorous ways. Among Sylvester Manor's valuable initiatives and a favorite in our household is their food scrap program that supports their on-site composting. Initially open to the farm's CSA members, the program was expanded in 2023 to accept scraps from more island residents. The program has since expanded even more and has been a great success, taking in an average of 500 pounds of food scraps per week or 1 ton per month. This not only saves bag fees for islanders, but also saves money for the town. Sylvester Manor is currently pursuing additional collection sites in the recycling center and the school. The scraps will be transferred to Sylvester Manor for composting. This is just one of the many programs that benefit the island community. I support the recognition of Sylvester Manor's mix of uses and their ongoing programs, and I look forward to seeing the Manor House rehabilitated to its grand glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else here in the audience, please come up. All right. David?
Hi, David Austin. I'm here, I think, primarily, partially as Liz's husband, but secondarily as a board member of CAST. I'd like to thank the Manor for, they have contributed huge amounts of food to CAST over the years and continue to do so. They don't have to, there's no obligation to, but it's made a huge difference for both Shelter Island residents as well as entire North Fork. So I'm here to support the special permit. I wish actually it wasn't a special permit. I think they were misled by previous attorney direction. I think it would have better done a blanket across the entire space just to cover for the future. This is gonna one off and one off and one off. But regardless, since this is the path they're going down, I would ask the DBA to approve it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just make one quick comment on that, in general, I think that any kind of spot zoning on Shelter Island gets very fast and enormous pushback. So
I understand.
I just
I know it does, and that's why things get piecemeal to all over the place. It's like there's lots of opportunities. Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Who you wanted to speak?
I'm Hope Sherman. Was the time I used to sit up there. I work for the Land Trust, the Conic Land Trust. When Eben Osprey took over this land, and along with Sarah Gordon and a whole passel of other people, we set out to make sure that it didn't turn into 52 2-acre plots, housing plots, and it was through making it into what is now the educational park. And back in those days, we were just kind of feeling our way along, but it has grown since then, it has blossomed since then. And I just want to say that I'm in favor of what they're trying to do with this new zoning. So I'm going to request that you give it a good hard look and then approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Hoop. Anyone else in the audience here? Yes, sir. Please come up and state your name for the record.
My name is Greg, Greg Cranford, 137 North Ferry Road. I just want to speak in favor of this application. And I wanted to touch on one thing that Stephen mentioned, and that is the time sensitivity of the grants they have received for preservation and restoration of the Manor House. I'm on the board of trustees for the Philadelphia Society of the Preservation of Landmarks, and we go through a similar process of getting federal and state grants, and they are very hard to get, and they're very easy to lose. And the time sensitivity issue that he just mentioned is something that is very important to keep in mind. So I just wanted to speak to that and to say they've done an amazing job at getting these federal grants.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Anyone else here in the audience like to speak? Sir, please come up and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Peter Levinson. My wife and I live on 23 Winthrop. In 2010, we rented a house in Shelter Island looking for a place to live, and I rented for 3 years. In 2013, we bought the house we're in now. I can tell you that one of the reasons we bought that house was the richness of Shelter Island and the richness that Sylvester Manor brought to it. It was a time when that institution was just starting to get on the ground or standing up from the ground. And indeed, in that time, we walk their trails. We go to the CSA, we're members of that. We go to their events. We go to Shakespeare. My grandchildren get such great joy from the camp that they run. We go Shakespeare. Every one of those items and the music festivals are things that we find culturally enriching and make this community what it is. So we're very much in favor of supporting their application, as complicated as it is, and the nuance that you are confronted with. Every one of the uses that I, and I think many other members of the community, get from that is why the application is complicated, but nonetheless important, and why it enriches our community. So in that regard is why I support it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in the audience like to make a comment? No? Maybe we can just open this up to Zoom then, Christina? See who's, anyone out in Zoom land like to make a comment?
Mr. Schillingberg?
Ed Schillingberg. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm Ed Schillingberg. I'm an enthusiastic researcher in local history. I'm not a consultant or an employee of the manor. I urge you to grant all approvals that have been requested of you by the manor and allow it to pursue its renovation program. The manor and the collection are key evidence of its historical significance. The house requires substantial upgrading and its collections better condition. The manor, as renovated, will house historical, educational, and administrative activities, relieving the need for new construction. These activities, while different from its previous primarily residential use, will be within its boundaries and without adverse effects on the surrounding area. One basic and really important point: the island needs new attractions to draw customers to its shops and services and buyers to its properties. Renovating the manor house is a win-win for the island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberg. Anyone else in Zoom land?
Hello? Hello? My name
Yes.
is Paul Skinner.
Please, Mr. Skinner, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to speak in support of the application. Me, Paul Skinner, and my wife have been neighbours of Sylvester Manor for coming up 10 years now. I would say that we're here throughout the summer and a good part of the winter. I've witnessed these events. They are few in number, they're low key, and they're generally over quickly. I've been to some of them, they're enjoyable, they're culturally enriching. And in that respect, I would say they are, in fact, good neighbours as well as a good application here. I'd like to speak in its support.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
You mentioned that you're a neighbor. What is your physical address on the island?
We are at 142H North Ferry Road. That's down the bottom of the dirt road that is across the creek from the lawns there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I get to watch what goes on across those lawns all through the year. And in my observations, there's probably 6 or 7 events at most. And if I can, I like to get to them.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else out in Zoom land? What's that?
Angela,
Christina, can you help him out there? Angelo, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, hi, Phil.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm in support of the application for Sylvester Manor. I want to tell you a little story that happened 62 years ago. That was my first experience at Sylvester Manor when Alice Fisk invited the first grade Shelter Island School class to visit the gardens there. And here we are 62 years later, and I've never forgotten it. So I think it's a great resource to the island. And I think it's a wonderful place. I visit it still to this day. But let's let all the other 6-year-olds enjoy the Sylvester Manor, and even the ones that are a little bit older. So full support for the Sylvester Manor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? It's really big. No one else has a comment?
Christopher Nelson.
Someone else?
Hi, my name is Christopher Nelson. I worked as an apprentice on Sylvester Manor's farm in the summer of 2023, and I'd like to voice my support for the application as well. A little bit about my time there. I was there just over the summer. I wasn't there even for the full season, but even during the short 3 months that I was there, I saw a number of uses of the farm with the events. I attended Farm to Table. I interacted with a number of CSA members, community members, people who just came to the farm to enjoy the property. And I also saw a lot of the history. And as farm workers, it was, pitched to us as like, this is an important part of your experience here. We were given a wonderful tour of the Manor House by Donna Marie, who was on the History and Heritage team at Sylvester Manor. And during that tour, it was very clear and highlighted by Donna Marie, the renovations that were necessary and the value that they could bring to the manor. So I'd just like to voice my support for all of these uses and the permitting going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Out in Zoom land? No? No? Anyone else here? No? Yeah, I think we need to keep this open. We had requested some stuff from you folks. Should we try to put this back on in May, or should we?
So in May, we have 2 hearings and 1 continuation scheduled. Up to the board.
What's that?
Seems continuation.
Okay. And we have 2 other new applications?
New applications are scheduled.
Can I ask a question? Is that possible still?
Sure, please stand up, Mr. Gainer.
I'm sorry, something just popped in my head. Mike Gainer, 8 Cobbitts Lane. Seeing as how they're still operating illegally, right? Being without a special permit, and they're doing all of these uses that aren't permitted inside of a residential zone. Are they going to be continue to do all of these things that they're saying they're doing? Can they have a farm to table event? Can they do all of these other things that they're not supposed to be doing?
Mr. Gainer, we have no enforcement authority when it comes to the zoning code. We are the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you would have to ask the zoning enforcement officer or the code enforcement officers or the town board. It's not our purview.
I've tried asking the town board.
But I have 0 answers to provide for you. We have 0 enforcement authority.
Would you say, and I'll truncate this because I don't want to make it the evening, would you say on the 60 Smith Street application, when you went out and inspected it for the deer fence, you commented in the November hearing, you said you went out and you saw the deer fence, it was there, and then they received a stop work order after you went and inspected it. Isn't that?
No, that's not what I said.
That you didn't say that you went out there and looked at there and saw the fence? That's not on there?
I don't think so. Look, I could have said anything, but I don't recall that, Mr. Gainer.
Okay, it's in the video, so I'll pull it up and discuss it at the next hearing. Thank you very much.
If Kim Nolan and Zoom.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a proposal that the record be closed subject to the submission of the written.
I feel more comfortable leaving it open, I think. Just as we're asking for a lot of information, I think it's just best for us to receive that information before we close the hearing.
Okay. Yeah. Can you just go through one more time, Stephen? Can we just go through one more time all the information that you're requesting just so that we have it? Or will that be provided to us in writing? I just want to make sure.
Thank you for
Okay,
the survey and
yeah, marked up survey, list of the covenants, and the charter,
Existing properties that are privately owned.
right, existing property privately owned, marked on the survey as well.
Okay, great. In the interest of our time, it would be wonderful if we could be heard again in May. But I know you have your own schedule. It's obviously, I'll just make that clear
it's
because
up to you.
we are going to have,
You
we
wanna-
have not just the board, but we have the town board. But
It's fine with me. I just-
Okay. Well,
I heard the word timely, I think 10 times. There was an insinuation that maybe we're not acting in a timely manner. But it was withdrawn.
right, it's,
Yeah.
this is the first moment you've been here with us, right?
Understood.
Other than coming up and requesting an adjournment once before.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that we should leave it open and adjourn it until May 28th, is it?
It's 21st.
No. Your hearing would be the 28th, right?
now we switched that.
Oh, because of Memorial Day?
No, different reasons, but our meetings are 14 and 21st.
Okay, so we'll put it on for the 21st, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Our meeting's what?
14 and 21st.
Oh, 14. Oh, you said 4 PM. I was like, oh.
We'll be here a lot.
Okay, so everybody good with that?
Mhm.
Well, do we have to vote on that, Tim? No. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna leave it, yes, Mr. Kelly?
Mr. Chairman, I'm advised that several of the things that you asked for, not all, but several are actually in the application packet. So we will reference them in a letter so that you point out what exhibits provide that information.
Okay, certainly the charter was not in.
Charter was not, and I think a lot of the other stuff was, but we will highlight what's in the application packet and get to you whatever is not.
Okay, and I don't see the covenants really written out there either.
Yeah, but that's.
That's. All right, anyone else have any other comment here before we're getting out of here tonight? No? Okay, was there someone else on Zoom?
Not anymore. I don't know, Kim Nolan, do you wish to speak? She had her hands up, but then.
Kim Nolan, did you wish to speak? I'm gonna say. No?
Yeah, I cannot tell.
All right, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor? Okay, I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish I'd have felt punching.